Whether you're dreaming of becoming a lead teacher, stepping into your first director role, or leading a thriving childcare program of your own, you don't have to figure it out alone. Welcome to the Childcare Director's Chair, where leadership coach, speaker, co-author, and multi-center owner Erica Sacoscio shares the wisdom she's gained from decades of leading successful early childhood programs and developing future leaders. Each episode is designed to help you use your voice, lead with confidence, build a positive workplace culture, and become the kind of leader your team is excited to follow. Expect real talk, big laughs, bold leadership truth, practical strategies, and the encouragement to believe in yourself every step of the way. Because when Erica teaches leadership, she's teaching what she's lived. The Child Care Director's Chair is proudly sponsored by Watch Me Grow, supporting childcare leaders with innovative technology that helps build stronger programs and stronger family connections. Together, they believe leadership isn't a title, it's an action. Pull up your chair, future leader. Here's Erica Sacoscio.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. It's me, Erica Sacoscio, and I am so happy you're here today. Today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of childcare leaders are feeling right now, even if they're not always saying it out loud. But for the last few years, many of us have been trying to recover. We've been trying to get staffing back on track. Maybe it's rebuilding enrollment, reconnecting with families, and honestly, just get through the day without feeling like we're constantly putting out fires. But I think we're entering a different season right now, and I'm really excited about it. And I think it's time for us to start talking about what really means to rebuild a childcare program from the ground up. You know, a lot of leaders I talk with throughout the country will say things like, before COVID, I had such a great team. Or I wish I could get back to what my program used to feel like. And I completely understand that, because there was a time when many of our staff had been with us for years. You know who was opening the building, you knew who was closing, you knew which teacher could walk into a classroom immediately and calm things down. You also knew who you could call on when things got tough. There was just like a rhythm to the program. People knew each other, they definitely knew the families, and they understood the expectations. There was like a sense of trust that came from working together for a long time. Then everything changed, right? People left the field, people retired, people changed careers, and a lot of people simply started looking at work differently. And for many childcare leaders, staffing became less about finding the right person and maybe a little bit more about finding any person who could keep your classrooms open. I know there were times when leaders were looking at applications and thinking, can you start on Monday? Great, welcome aboard. It was not because standards suddenly didn't matter. It was because the reality of running a childcare center during those years forced us into survival mode. And survival mode changes the way you lead. You make quicker decisions. You accept things that you probably would not normally accept. And you move people around more than you want to. And you shorten onboarding because there's simply no more time. And sometimes you even promote people earlier than you had planned because you need someone in that leadership role. You sometimes let things go because you're afraid that if you address the issue, the employee might leave. And then you were back trying to cover yet another classroom. Now you could say, oh, not me, not my program. But if you're being honest with yourself, there is some truth to some of these items. For a period of time, that may have been necessity. But I think that the biggest question for childcare leaders right now is this. Are we still living in survival mode, even though the environment around us may have started to shift? You know, the job market feels different than it did a few years ago. People are thinking more carefully before they leave their jobs. The cost of living is high, and that matters. And benefits matters, stability matters, schedules matter, and people are thinking about whether they can afford to walk away from a paycheck to start somewhere else all over again. Now, that doesn't mean staffing is suddenly easy, because we all know childcare still has a very real workforce challenge. But I do think it gives leaders an opportunity to slow down a little bit, to become more intentional and start rebuilding instead of constantly patching holes. That's the part I really want us to think about today. Maybe the goal is not to get your old program back, but maybe the goal is to build the next version of your program. And maybe that version can actually be stronger than the one you had before. If we're rebuilding a childcare program from the ground up, what would we look at? I would not start with curriculum or furniture, bulletin boards, or even training. Although those are visual, so that might be where you really want to go. But I would start with culture. I would ask myself what I want this program to feel like when someone walks through the door. I would think about how I want the staff to speak to children, how I want them to speak to each other, how I want families to feel when they walk into the building. I would ask, what does professionalism look like here? What does teamwork look like here? And what kind of behavior are we no longer willing to overlook? And that last part matters because during the staffing crisis, many of us overlooked things that we would have addressed much more quickly before. Maybe someone came in late every day, but you thought, well, at least they came in. Or maybe someone had a negative attitude, but you did not want to say it out loud because you were afraid they'd quit. Or maybe the lesson plans were not getting done as thoroughly as they used to. Maybe staff were spending too much time on their phones, or maybe classroom quality was not where you wanted it to be. And you knew it, but you were thinking about the bigger picture and trying to keep the building running. Now we have to decide whether those temporary compromises are still serving us. If we want to rebuild an excellent program, we have to begin by raising the standard again. That does not mean walking into a staff meeting and giving everyone a long list of everything they're doing wrong. It just means being clear. It means coaching your people. It means talking about what looks good and what looks good in your program. What does that look like for your program? Because everybody's is different. And it means following up. It means recognizing the employees who are doing the things well and helping those that need support to get better. It also means being willing to say, this is the direction we're going, and this is what we expect from each other. Now, hiring has to become more intentional too. For a long time, many of us were hiring for that empty seat. We were asking, can this person work full time? Can they close? Can they work with infants? Can they start tomorrow? Those were the questions we had to ask because people were desperate for coverage. But when you're rebuilding, you have to start asking different questions. You have to ask whether this person fits the team that you're trying to create. Do they actually like being around children? And are they dependable? Can they take feedback? Are they willing to learn? And that's a big one. Do they communicate well? And how do they talk about their previous employer? Because that tells you a lot. Especially the ones who say, oh, it was horrible. And you look and you say, oh, you were there for 6 years. So obviously it wasn't horrible, right? So you have to really think about how do they frame their past experiences. Now, of course, you can have a negative experience, but at the same time, if you were there for a long period of time, you must have had some positive ones. And what skills did you learn while you were there? What happens when something doesn't go their way? That's definitely a question you want to ask. Do they take responsibility, or is everything everyone else's fault? Those things tell you a lot more about whether someone can grow in your program. You know, I've always believed that I can teach someone curriculum and I can teach them how to do lesson planning. I can teach them how to communicate with families, and I can teach them how to document learning and how to organize a classroom. But it is much harder to teach someone how to care. It is much harder to teach someone to be kind, to be dependable, to be positive, and willing to grow. So when we're rebuilding, we have to think beyond filling the schedule. We have to think about who we are inviting into our culture. Then comes onboarding. And I think this is one of the areas where childcare programs have a huge opportunity. We spend so much energy trying to find people, and then sometimes when we finally hire them, we put them in the classroom and we hope for the best. We give them a handbook, show them where the bathroom is, and introduce them to the teacher that they're working with, and then everybody gets busy. 2 weeks later, we're frustrated because they're not doing things the way we want them to do them. But we have to ask ourselves whether we actually taught them. Do we explain our philosophy? Did we tell them why we do things the way that we do them? Did we even show them what good family communication looks like at your program? Did they observe a strong teacher? Did someone check in with them after their first week? Did we ask them what was confusing? Did we tell them what they were doing well? Did we give them a person they could go to without feeling like they were bothering somebody? If we want employees to stay, those first 30, 60, and 90 days matters. And that's when we're deciding whether they can see themselves in the program, if we can see them as part of the program. It would also be where we're watching for potential. We should be asking, can I see this person growing here? Could this person become a lead teacher? Could they become a mentor someday? Could they become part of our leadership team? That brings me to leadership development, because I think this is one of the biggest pieces for rebuilding. For the last few years, we've talked a lot about staffing shortages, but I also think many programs have a leadership pipeline problem. And if every question has to come through the director, if every problem has to land on your desk, or if you cannot even take a few days off with your phone not ringing off the hook, you have not built enough leadership around you. Now, that's not a criticism. A lot of us accidentally create that dynamic because we're the ones holding everything together. But rebuilding means looking around your program and asking, who else can lead? Maybe there's a teacher who does not have a leadership title, but everyone goes to her when they need help. Maybe you have someone who's always thinking ahead. And maybe you have someone who notices when a new teacher is struggling and steps in. Maybe you have a teacher who asks thoughtful questions and wants to know more about curriculum and child development. Ooh, I love that person. Let them lead, be part of a staff meeting. Let them help with events. Let them work with education coordinators. And let them help organize classroom projects. Maybe give them opportunities to practice leadership while you're still there to support them. That honestly is how you build the bench, guys. You do not need to wait until somebody quits to say, who can we promote? You develop people before you need them. And at the same time, rebuilding means looking closely at the actual quality of the program. And this is where I think leaders need to physically get back into your classrooms. Walk through the room like you have never seen it before. And I just did this in my classrooms at one of my locations. Look at what the children are doing. Look at what the teachers are doing. Are they down on the floor? Are they talking with the children or are they talking at them? Are they asking questions? Are the children engaged? Are the learning centers inviting? Can you even tell what the theme is for the week? Are the children creating? Are they exploring? Or are they mostly waiting for the next adult-directed activity? Look at your walls. Are you seeing children's work? Or are you seeing projects that are mostly done by teachers? Are the teachers reading? Are they singing? Are they playing? Are they having real conversations? That's what rebuilding looks like. It's not just walking around pointing out problems. It's being present enough to help solve them. We also have to rebuild family relationships. I think we sometimes underestimate how much has changed for families during those years. Drop-off has changed, pickup has changed, communication has changed. And for some families, the center became a place where they dropped their child at the door instead of a community where they felt connected to. We have to bring back that connection. Families should know what is happening in the classrooms. They should understand what their child is learning. They should hear about the positive things their child did that day, not just the challenging moments. And they should know who the teachers are and feel like they have a relationship with the people caring for their child. When families feel connected to the program, they become part of your culture. They talk about you differently. They refer other families to you. And they give teachers more grace because they know them. They become partners instead of simply customers. Then there are the systems. This is probably the least exciting part of rebuilding, but it may be the most important. I think every childcare leader should look at systems that they are currently using and ask, did we choose this because it's a good system, or did we choose it because we were trying to survive? Maybe you stopped your regular staff meetings because you could never get everybody together. Maybe observations became inconsistent. Maybe onboarding got rushed. Maybe evaluations stopped happening. Maybe professional development became something you only did when licensing required it. And maybe there are temporary schedules or routines that somehow became permanent. So go back and look at it all. Look at it with fresh eyes and keep the things that work and change the things that no longer make sense. Now, rebuilding doesn't mean throwing everything away. It just means being more intentional about what you're carrying forward. And the biggest thing I want leaders to remember is that you cannot rebuild everything at once. If you finish this episode and go into work tomorrow with a giant list of 25 things you need to change, you're going to overwhelm your staff and yourself. So just pick 3. Maybe your 3 are culture, onboarding, and classroom quality. Maybe 3 are leadership development, family communication, and accountability. Or maybe something completely different is happening in your program and you need to start somewhere else. Whatever they are, choose 3 and keep coming back to them. Talk about them at staff meetings. Talk about them at one-on-ones. Celebrate the progress. Keep coaching and keep following up. This is how great programs are built. It is usually not one huge moment, but hundreds of small decisions that all start moving in the same direction. So if you're sitting here thinking about the team you used to have, I understand. Maybe you really did have a dream team. Maybe there were people in your program who you wish were still there. Maybe you look at old pictures and remember a season where everything just seemed easier. Honor that season, but don't get stuck trying to recreate it. The next version of your program could maybe even be better. The teacher you hired last month become one of the strongest teachers you have ever had. And that assistant teacher who is just learning the ropes today could become your education coordinator one day. The person that you're mentoring right now could possibly step into your role or a different role. We don't know yet. What we do know is that all of those things don't happen by accident. We have to build the culture. We have to develop the people, and we have to raise the standard. We have to improve the educational program, and we have to reconnect with families. We have to fix systems, and most importantly, we have to keep growing as leaders because the program is only going to grow as far as the leadership grows around it. So this week, I want you to sit down and think about your program. If you were truly rebuilding it from the ground up today, knowing everything you would know, what would you keep? What would you stop accepting? And what would you build differently? Do not give yourself 20 answers. Give yourself 3. Then choose one action you can take this week to start moving in that direction. Maybe it's having a conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's sitting down with a new employee. Maybe it is identifying someone on the team who has leadership potential. Maybe it's spending an hour in classrooms instead of behind your desk. And maybe it's bringing back something your program used to do really, really well. Whatever it is, start there. For the last few years, so many childcare leaders have been holding everything together. We've been responding, covering, fixing, adjusting, doing whatever is needed to be done. But maybe we're entering a new season where we can start building again. Instead of asking, how do I get my program back to where it used to be? Maybe a better question is, knowing everything I know now, how good could we become? That's the question I want to leave you with today from the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. I love you, and I hope you have an amazing day.
Before you go, ask yourself, what's one leadership lesson you'll put into action this week? Then share one takeaway with your leadership team, because Erica believes that great leaders don't just grow themselves, they help others grow too. Ready to keep growing? Join Erica inside the ECE Trailblazers Leadership Membership at childcaredirectorschair.com. Proudly sponsored by Watch Me Grow. Together, we believe leadership isn't a title, it's an action. And we'll save your chair for next time.